Tonight on SCC, the Nationals coming up and Card Ladder announces some of their plans. And later, the crew break down the details of the Jordan Fleer rookie $840K sale. Coming up now on SCC.
Welcome to episode 31 of Sports Cards Culture. I'm Chris on Instagram at Chris_HOJ. Nick, aka Stiff Arm Wax, Instagram at Stiff Arm Wax. Josh, Instagram at Cardboard_Chronicles. And Kristina at Kristina's PC. The National. Quick programming alert. As many are aware, the 41st National Sports Collectors Convention is taking place July 28th through August 1st. That's right, by the time this episode airs, the National will be only 1 week away. We will be taking a 2-week hiatus from Sports Cards Culture episodes as we prepare for the National and then, of course, attend the National. While at the National, the Card Ladder team will be hosting a show from the main stage from 12:30 to 1 p.m. on Thursday, July 29th. Make sure to stop by. That's at 12:30 p.m. on the main stage on what day?
Thursday.
Do not miss it. Special thanks to Carvin, the architect, for helping out with that. Josh, we haven't figured out yet what we're going to do while we're on the main stage. Do you think that we will have something planned, or are we just going to end up doing an impromptu crossover style show live?
Yes.
And which one would the people prefer? Should we prepare? Or
a little bit of this, a little bit of that, as my son always says. No, we'll probably have something planned, but knowing you and I, it'll probably go awry, and we'll go on tangents and talk about things that we feel in the moment. I would assume probably something about Card Ladder, something about the state of the market, things like that, things people want to hear. But we like to give our side of things, our take on it from the collector's perspective. So probably something around that.
Indeed. And so to the audience, you don't know. Maybe we'll prepare something. Maybe we're just going to go off script. The only way you can find out is if you attend.
Will they have seltzers?
That is a very important question.
Maybe we should bring our own.
Maybe we should bring our own. Now, 12:30, is that early for a seltzer, or is that just right on time?
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah.
Amen.
All right. We also will be at booth 566.
Yep.
Right next to Tops. If you see Tops, Card Ladder is right next door.
Across the aisle from Tops, but that's fine.
We will be there all week. Stop by and see us. We obviously run a business in the hobby, and we will be promoting that business, but we are collectors too, and we love to talk with fellow collectors. Kristina?
Yes?
What are you looking forward to the most about running a booth while at the National?
You just said it, talking to people.
Usually you're the one who's going up to booths and talking to people. Now you're going to be on the other side of it.
I know. I'm looking forward to it.
So maybe some are looking to pay back the Kristina visits.
God, you make it sound like I'm horrible.
So first of all, you just made a nice post on Instagram this weekend about Chicagoland Sports Cards, which we visited. Very popular post on Instagram. And what you do when Kristina goes to shows, when she goes to shops, she asks permission.
Always.
If she can take pictures, and then gets to know the owners, and then ends up promoting them.
Yeah, proper etiquette says just say a quick intro, who you are, and ask permission before you start snapping photos. Some people don't want things or themselves on social media, so you just want to be conscientious of that. Yeah. All
right, so on this topic here of just little tidbits of advice for the National, let's hit one more question before we move on. Josh, you had a discussion with Justin, also known as 610 Sports Cards, about preparing for this year's National, and it can be found on the Cardboard Chronicles YouTube channel, and it should be viewed in full. But what were some of the highlights of that discussion, and what quick tidbits can you give Sports Cards Culture viewers to help get them excited and also prepared for this year's National?
Yeah, sure. It was a very long interview, so it's going to be hard for me to distill it down, but Kristina's going to like this answer. The biggest takeaway for me was that you should plan as much as you can, because you're not going to be able to prepare for what is coming at the National in terms of distractions and the amount of people and the amount of things going on. So having as much of it planned as possible is going to really help alleviate the stress, and hopefully you'll have a good chunk of time each day to kind of just roam and do whatever you want. And if everything else is planned, it'll make that go a lot smoother. So outside of that, another easy tidbits, have cash. As they say, cash is king. Figure out what cards you want to bring, and you come up with a plan of how you want to secure those cards and travel with them. You want to be not thinking about that as well as much as possible. Figure out groups of people you'd like to meet up with, travel with. Have like hopefully a booth of people you trust that you can have a home base, maybe where you can take some time off away from the craziness, because it is crazy. And I know that this is the first national in 2 years, so a lot of people that are in the hobby have never been to national, and they've been to other shows. This one is quite a bit more stressful, so definitely mentally prepare yourself for all of that, and bring a phone charger and comfortable shoes and socks.
And deodorant.
And deodorant.
Please wear deodorant and socks.
That's great practical advice. Plan and prepare, and leave no stone unturned when it comes to planning and preparing. Even the small things, you'll be glad you planned them in advance. Coming up next on Sports Cards Culture, shedding light on the Jordan Fleer rookie PSA 10 mind-boggling $840,000 sale.
Card Ladder, the best sports card app on the market. The future of sports cards is here. Card Ladder is the 21st century price guide and market analysis tool for sports cards. The best tools to help you track your cards. Watch the trends, stay informed, compare cards, and track the growth of your personal collection, all in one simple and intuitive platform. Join the innovators, not the imitators. The future is here. The future is now. Card Ladder.
You're watching SCC, Sports Cards Culture. Keep up with the crew and follow them on all the socials. Plus, join Josh and Chris and sometimes special guest Kristina every Friday night on Instagram Live. The Crossover.
A mind-boggling all-time high sale has been recorded for the 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan PSA 10 as the hobby erupts in applause. But there's more to this story than meets the eye, and I hope we can clear up some of the confusion surrounding that sale. So last weekend in PWCC's premier auction, which is an auction that PWCC hosts on their own platform outside of eBay for high-end cards, a 1986 Fleer 57 Jordan PSA 10 sold for $840,000. The buyer of the card, who is a well-known and well-capitalized collector, posted a screenshot to Instagram revealing that he won the auction. This was a staggering price tag for the card, especially considering that a copy had sold at auction with Golden for $270,000 less than a week earlier. So did the market for this card more than triple in 6 days? It would be ludicrous and worrisome if that was the case, but that sure is what it looks like based on the information I've given so far. However, there is an important piece of context missing from this story. And as hobby content creators, if I can stand on a soapbox for a second, we need to be cognizant of the fact that most consumers of hobby content don't work in the sports card industry. They don't have the time to dig in and research everything for themselves. They trust us to fill them in. And it's up to us as content creators to responsibly transmit all the details of a story. Because in fact what happened was the Fleer PSA 10 Jordan did not suddenly triple in value. According to PWCC, the copy that sold for $840,000, and I quote, represents the very best copy we've had the pleasure of brokering in our 20-plus year history, end quote. PWCC attached a PWCCS sticker to the card, which indicates that the card belongs to the top 5% of PWCC's eye appeal spectrum, and PWCC's website notes that copies of the card with the PWCC S sticker have historically sold for twice their normal market value. In this case, PWCC not only gave it a top 5% designation, but they literally said it was the very best copy they've ever sold. So no, the market for the MJ Fleer did not skyrocket overnight. Instead, a very special copy that PWCC identified as the best copy they've ever brokered sold for $840,000. But what's more, another copy without any PWCC designation sold over the weekend too, with Julian's Auctions, and that copy sold for $384,000. That still marks a substantial uptick from the card's market value just a few days earlier, but it's a much more palatable increase. All right, so there's two stories here, and I want to bring in Josh and Kristina to talk about both of them. One story involves hobby content and how a story like this should be reported to a sports card audience, and the other story involves super high-end sports card collecting and investing, and how copies of cards like the Jordan Fleer Rookie, even within the grade of PSA 10, are perceived as belonging to different tiers. So Josh, let me ask you first about this idea that not all PSA 10s are equal, especially as it pertains to the 86 Fleer Jordan. Do you agree that there are some PSA 10s that are better than others? And relatedly, do you think that certain buyers are willing to pay more for PSA 10 copies that seemingly present better?
Yes, absolutely. Especially with this card, I'm just going to focus on the 86 Fleer because centering is a huge deal on this card, because if you look at the card just with your eyes without any grading expert or any experts at all, you can just tell pretty easily that when the centering is good or poor. And on this copy, the centering is very excellent. And so when they're talking about eye appeal, especially on this card, they're generally talking about centering. And for collectors, centering is usually the number one ranked subgrade. Like, people want to be able to look at the card and see that it looks very nice, and it's not left or right skewed or top to bottom. And on that one, it's got like the defined border, so you can really, really tell. And people are definitely willing to pay more for the better centering, especially when a company like PWCC is going to put a stamp on it and tell you that it's the best centering. Outside of PSA obviously giving it a 10. I think, if you want my personal opinion, this is a little bit extreme of a ratio of PWCC said 200%, and you said, we're talking about 300%. So it just seems a little bit high, but I mean, if two collectors are really going after the top one, the best PSA 10, as it were, then, that's what they're going to bid, and that's how auctions work. So that's what the market dictates.
Do you think the frenetic pace, Josh, of the way that PWCC's premier auctions end, where eventually you get into this period of time where it's a 2-minute window, and anytime any bid is placed on any card, the website updates, and it's really cool. The website updates to show what the most recent card bid on was, but the 2-minute timer gets reset. But 2 minutes, that's no time to think. You just have to act quickly and decide if you want to keep on bidding or not. Do you think that has anything to do with some of the crazy high prices that we saw in that auction last weekend?
Yeah, definitely. Their user experience is really strong towards getting you to be frantic. Like it's like green flashing and then it turns red and stuff. So like they're definitely catching your attention and getting you to bid, which is good. I mean, there's tons of research in the software business around UX driving conversion and people to execute on taking action. So like Amazon, Google, Walmart, all these monster companies that have websites have tons and tons of research around this kind of stuff. So, it wouldn't surprise me to see bigger numbers on these auctions based on subtle changes to the website.
And this was only, if I'm not mistaken, PWCC's second premier auction. So still very new, and some of these cards that sold in this auction sold for the very first time in that setting. And we'll see if people adjust to this new format and sort of learn to compensate for the craziness, or I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Really interesting stuff there. Kristina.
Yes.
There is a saying in the hobby: buy the card,
not the grade.
In the same PWCC auction, very good, last weekend, a BGS 9.5 True Gem Plus copy of the same card, the 86 Fleer Jordan. It had 395 subgrades and 110. That's why it's called a True Gem Plus.
Right.
Sold for $72,000. All right?
Yeah.
Remember that the PWCC S, best copy ever, PSA 10, sold for $840,000. So what would you rather have? either $768,000 in cash and one True Gem Plus BGS 9.5 or a PSA 10 that PWCC says is the best copy they've ever sold.
I will take the 9.5 and the cash, please.
Okay. All right. And why do you feel that way?
I don't really care about the grade of PSA 10. Like, sorry, guys. I don't. I mean, I think a BGS 9.5 is just as good. Sorry, Nat. And and I'd rather have the money. And I mean, that's a very nice house on a very large piece of property. So I never have to see my neighbors.
It kind of went off the rails there at the end, but all right, Kristina. But Josh,
well, I mean that like no one would have to know that I'd have this card, and you could build a moat around your house so that no one could get to your cards.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, that's totally why I'm not an antisocial person.
All right. But Josh, take the other side of this one.
Sure.
What about the people who want that very best PSA 10 and they're willing to pay the premium for it? How are they looking at this?
I mean, I can really easily build a case on the other side of Kristina here because it's Michael Jordan. He's the most collected, most famous, best basketball player of all time, number one in all of collectibles, and it's really that's not up for debate. And he doesn't really have many options for rookie cards. So if you're talking about potentially his best rookie card, and seeing some of the prices of these other rookies and their rookie cards going, I can see the argument, especially if you're talking about someone who is thinking about this in terms of an investment. If you're the one who captured this, best PWCC Jordan Fleer PSA 10 ever, that's gonna move forward with it. Like, you're gonna have that sort of attachment to it, and people will know that that's the best one according to PWCC. So I think, personally as a collector, I'd much rather have the BGS as well, because I'm looking to collect and build out different cards into my collection, and it would be really easy to check one off with the 9.5 True Gem Plus. It would really satisfy my OCD, and I'd have a ton of cash to go get a lot more other cards. But if your goal is to have the best Fleer Jordan, then this is, I guess, one of those options you could take.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And Kristina, we've thought several times twice when PMG greens of Jordan have come up, what if we just sold everything and went all in on one of these 10, right? And for some people, I think getting that very best PSA 10 of the 86 Fleer is similar.
Yeah.
It's seen as just getting the most exclusive, most elite, most rare version of the Jordan Fleer rookie card.
Sure, but we don't yet own that
No, we
green
don't. No, we
because
don't.
we can't part with the rest of our cards.
True.
And I think that's the trade-off.
It is. And, there's, as Josh rightly pointed out, there's a case to be made on both sides. All right, Josh, let me shift gears and talk a little bit about hobby content. I've got a question for you relating to that. What do you think about the role that hobby content creators have played in sharing this sale with the public? My opinion is that if a hobby content creator failed to mention that this card was designated PWCCS at least, and they probably should mention that PWCC said it's the best copy they've ever sold. If they did that, then they are so far.
I mean, obviously.
In 20 plus years of history.
Right, but I mean, we're also expecting this to be the best copy ever when next week someone who graded a 10 and has never let it part from their site could turn around and sell it, and that could become the next best card ever sold.
That's the gamble that you take there when we're dealing with unknowns. Right. So Josh, if a content creator failed to make these disclosures, then I think they're running the risk of misleading their audience. So what do you think about this? Is there anything we can do about this?
Yeah, I mean, in order to be like a mature hobby and a mature market, we have to have all the facts. We have to have data. We have to have tons of it. It all has to be vetted and accurate. Just like look at the stock market, look at all these other like art markets. If you want like actual long-staying power, you have to have real data, and it has to be up to date, and it needs to be accurate. I mean, I can see like the temptation to get like the short-term reaction to a giant sale and just sort of like throw it out there and get people excited, but I just don't see any sort of benefit to like bringing someone in and having them believe that the market's tripled overnight, because as we've seen before, when that happens, We saw this recently. The card went from 200K to 750 overnight, and then what ended up happening is it led to this massive, long-lasting correction over a ton of cards, and not just that one, where people are feeling worried and panicked over these last few months, all because of the overexcitement and the overabundance of supply, because people are just frantically, shoving these all-time high prices down our throats. I think it's actually better for us if we are more conservative with our approach in terms of like the market going back up and the excitement level growing at a more organic, natural pace. We're going to be much better off in the long run. But as a content creator, I think it's up to us, because a lot of people who are reading this stuff, don't necessarily have all the facts and they're not sure. So if they're getting, false information from the content creators, us, then it's going to be bad. So we need to spread the truth.
Well said. Kristina, piggybacking on some of the observations Josh just made right there, we remember well when the MJ Fleer PSA 10 sold twice for over $700,000 with Golden. That was about half a year ago now, if you can believe it. In the months that followed, the card dropped to $600K, then $500, then $400, then $300. It bottomed out at $212,000 on June 19th when it sold with Iconic Auctions. So from like $720 to $212 in half a year, less than half a year. Now, as those months rolled by, there was a perception among some people that the hobby market was crashing and that panic was setting in, and never mind the fact that the card was selling for only $75,000. It sounds weird to say only, but $75,000 a year ago. And even at $212,000 at the bottom, it's still up nearly threefold year over year. But now that we've got this $840K sale in the books and a potential lack of understanding about the details surrounding that sale, I'm worried about what happens when the next copy sells at auction, likely for much less, maybe half or less. And as a hobby, do you think that we've learned over these last 6 months to keep a more balanced perspective, a more conservative perspective as Josh was sketching? Or are people going to set unreasonable expectations for the near-term value of this card yet again, ultimately setting themselves up to be disappointed once more?
The latter. I mean, I think it's
That's
hard.
a pessimistic take.
It is, and I'm sorry. Like, I really hate being pessimistic, but I'm an optimist with realist tendencies, and I would say that's a more realistic perspective. We're going international with a huge record-breaking sale of a Fleer Jordan PSA 10.
How many people on that national floor are going to say that, actually, I have the best PSA 10, 1 million, please?
Exactly. And no one's going to bite.
Okay.
No one's going to bite. No one wants to buy a car. So there's a perception now that the PSA 10 is worth this because we have some irresponsible content creators who are not dealing in fact and just touting out the headline that the PSA 10 is now worth this. And that's not true. Even PWCC is saying that's not true. This is the best copy they've ever brokered. This is a copy that they designated S, which is usually goes for twice as much as another copy of the same card, same grade. So I'm really disappointed in a lot of people today based on the things I've seen.
Okay, Kristina, not holding it back. Okay, final question for Josh. Piggybacking on an observation Kristina made. Josh, with the National just a week away, last weekend's 2 Jordan Fleer PSA 10 sales, there were 2, 840 and 384. Those sales will probably be the card's last 2 public sales before the National. The 340,000 sale represents a significant uptick in value for the card, let alone the 840K sale. How do you think that these sales are going to impact buying and selling at the National?
Very little to none. I think that prior to these 2 sales, I think there's a lot of excitement around the National just based on the fact we haven't had one in 2 years. The hobby has really taken off since the last time we had one. People are excited to get there. Everything's booked and ready. The excitement and anticipation for, the next National is definitely growing. And these 2 sales don't change any of that don't believe. And if you're talking about that card specifically, Kristina already pointed out, no one's going to privately buy that card anywhere near these comps. One of the reasons that prices go higher at public auction is that you have a comp that you are setting in a public forum stating that this card you bought is worth X, so that you could point to someone else and say, hey, this is what I pay for, this is the comp. I set if you buy it privately, you're having to convince somebody. So, if you're talking about people going there and paying for a private PSA 10 Fleer Jordan for $800,000, there's no chance of that. So I don't think it changes much in that regard. It might change some of the, chatter around the National about how things might be ticking back up, because that's kind of been the narrative because of this card. And that's good and fine, but we just need to be realistic about it still.
Very good. That will do it, except I have a bonus piece of content, spur of the moments, based on a figurine that Nick has been displaying all episode long. It's LeBron James. It's LeBron James in his Space Jam uniform. We all have seen Space Jam 2. In fact, Nick, Kristina, and I watched it before Josh even. We watched it fresh the first night we could. And my take on it, I loved the game. The game sequence made me turn around as I was working while it was on in the background. I turned around and just watched the game. All the cameos. I really enjoyed the game sequence at the end.
I really liked one part. There was one part I really liked that happened at halftime, and I think everyone's going to know what it is based on my beliefs and likes that I've made publicly before.
Okay. Josh, how did you enjoy it?
I thought it was entertaining. I was entertained for a good hour and 45 minutes. It's not going to win any awards anytime soon, I don't think. And I wouldn't call it the movie of the year by any stretch, but I watched it with my son, who greatly enjoyed it, and he's made a whole day of it. He's making signs and drawing pictures about it, so he's excited. I mean, as a parent, can't really ask much more from a movie. Acting was okay, and the plot was left a lot to be desired, but the visuals were spectacular. The editing and production value were really good. It was entertaining.
Nick, do you have anything to add?
No, I would agree with that completely. Like, the cameos were fun. Visually, it was I enjoyed it. It was, the eye candy was perfect. Watched it the whole time, like that. I didn't feel the need to cut it off or whatever. And I went into it with bad expectations, but still watched the whole thing. But I do want to know, but why is it called, I get why it's called Space Jam, because it's a sequel. But the first Space Jam, it's literally monsters from space. I was thinking about this afterwards. There's no space involved. They go into a computer.
It should be called Tech Jam or something.
I get it for the sake of the sequel. Yeah, but I was thinking about that. The whole point of the first one was there's aliens that come down from space, and he has to play a basketball game in space. Well, but this one left all of that out. But that's a nitpicky, stupid thing, because the point is Looney Tunes and the next NBA generational talent starring in it, and so they call it Space Jam. But I was thinking about that, like, it shouldn't be called Space Jam. But that's a nitpicky
I think that was
thing.
just trying to play on the parents who watched Space Jam as kids.
Yeah, of course.
That was just to get them into the movie.
Yeah.
I would have watched if it was called Tech Jam.
I mean, I probably would have still watched it.
Matrix Jam.
These are just details, guys. Come on. The name matching up with the plot. These are just semantics.
This literally is semantics.
Yeah, that'd be like me complaining that Wile E. Coyote made, or the basketball. How could they score that many points? And that, I'm getting way too into the weeds.
It's all right.
That was the worst part of the movie. They were like getting crushed, and then he like rolled a machine out, and then they were tied. It was like, why don't you just do that earlier? You could be tied.
And why did you stop scoring when it tied? Why not just
because
keep going?
I mean, as long as Sammy liked it, I think we can give it an A+.
Yeah, then it's a win.
Yeah.
Kids are like,
All right. Now we've reviewed Space Jam 2.
Why didn't we review Luca?
We did not watch Luca. We can
that's
wrap.
a great movie.
Okay, 2 thumbs up from Josh and Kristina on Luca.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
All
it
right,
was.
that's going to do it for episode 31 of Sports Cards Culture. See you guys in 2 weeks.
Thanks for watching. Tell us in the comment section below what the crew should cover next week, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time in SCC, Sports Cards Culture.